Hey guys, I just got home from organizing a beautiful, at least I thought so, event with a gentleman who does real estate development in Israel, particularly in Judea and Samaria. And I will just tell you that the event was primarily for Russian speakers, Russian-speaking Jews, former Soviet Jews who live in America. And I'm really, really pleasantly surprised to find out about interest, very serious interest, that Russian-speaking Jews who came initially to the United States, the interest that they have for moving to Israel. Because, for a very long time, guys, it was a thing that essentially the perception was, people have friends and they have family who moved to Israel in the early 90s. The people who moved to America have friends and family that moved to Israel in the early 90s. And, the perception was that Israel is like this, like poor country. And yeah, we have friends and family there. And they don't live as well as we do. And all this kind of stuff. And yeah, we're going to go visit. We're going to see them and visit them. And they're going to visit us, but for us to move to Israel, it's like it's a combination of either a pipe dream or just not really on the radar for many reasons. A lot of people are just used to a certain level of comfort, certain level of lifestyle, certain level of just, also what are they going to do there, right? That's the question, right? But I think over the years, guys, now that the new generation, people, again, I'm not patting myself on the back, people such as myself and others said to themselves, that the future of the Jewish people is in Israel specifically, and in particular Russian-speaking Jews of the younger generation, the next generation, and even younger, are saying to themselves, well, Aliyah is something that I'd like to do. It's something that's a possibility. There's opportunities in terms of business, there's opportunities in terms of many things. And also looking at the situation in the world with the Jews. I think the older generation is also starting to realize, well, there's something to this. And, obviously we've seen this, song and dance before in Jewish history and in general in history. And a friend of mine was just saying, if anybody's going to pick up on the writing on the wall sooner than anybody else, it would be Soviet Jews. But again, it's a question of perception, right? If you talk to American Orthodox Jews, many of them, even if they don't have Aliyah on the radar, they grow up with Israel as, I don't want to say it's an afterthought, but Israel is on the tip of their tongue, right? Because they're constantly talking about, if they're talking Torah, they're talking about, kind of things that are related to Israel, things that happen in the land of Israel. They have rabbis, they're rabbis who are in Israel. They have the yeshivas that they send their kids to for a year or two. After high school, they send them to Israel, right? Even if they come back. They have relatives who made Aliyah from America, right? It's not such a big deal for them, right? Ramat Bet Shemesh, Efrat, Modi'in, having what's called a dira in Yerushalayim, a little apartment in Yerushalayim, it's not a big deal to them. It is a big deal, but it's not a big deal. Folks, for Russian-speaking Jews in America, right, it's a very big deal. Right? It's not as big of a deal for Russian-speaking Jews who live in, who come to Israel from Russia or Ukraine today, right? But the ones who come from America, it is a very big deal. Because again, you want me to heavily downgrade my life? And why would I downgrade my life? Like, if I'm not religious, what reason do I have to go to a country that is, constantly under siege, has bureaucracy up the wazoo, right? Well, my friends, now they're realizing, at least this demographic, or Russian-speaking Jew, that came closer to Torah, came closer to tradition, more their tradition is realizing, maybe, there's other things in life. Maybe, my grandkids are going to be in Israel, are going to be raised in Israel. Maybe, I'm retired, so what am I doing here, right? If I'm not working here and I'm already retired, like these are the people, some of the people saying to themselves, then why the heck am I here, right? Especially with certain people on the horizon, right? Certain guys who want to be mayor, certain people who want to be whatever, right? Favorable politicians are not, as we say in Russian, они не вечные, they're not eternal, right? So there's a lot of things going on with people, a lot of machinations going on in their mind, and again, as much as people don't want to admit, when people tell them, here's what's happening, here are the options, at the end of the day, guys, Jews have it built in the DNA, their own history. As people who lived in a certain place, thought that the certain place was forever, thought that the certain place would remain, the Jewish capital of the world, the Diaspora place, right? And then as you come to find out, they've come to find out in those generations that it's not, right? Whether it was certain parts of Spain, Berlin, which they called New Jerusalem, places in Poland, we have this thing called Arba Artsot, the Council of the Four Nations. Poland, White Russia, I believe Lithuania, and I believe Russia, if I'm not mistaken. You had like this very, very entrenched Jewish community in these places, and then next thing you know, you ain't got it. Eh? France, folks, the Dreyfus affair, right? What's up, Loyal citizens of France, maybe not. Or they are, but perceived as not, right? All these other places, folks, in North Africa, Jews were just such integral parts of the community. Syria, also Iran, right? Integral parts of the community. They thought that, the places that they lived were like the irresistible force and the immovable object. But again, folks, Jewish history is like a freight train, right? As Rabbi Kesson likes to say, and it's all part of the Geulah, right? The redemption. And he says, the Geulah is unstoppable and irrevocable, right? Just like a freight train. So yeah, guys, I think people that you never thought would consider certain things, especially at a time like this, It's funny, guys, there was a lot of questions tonight about, is Israel, the government, planning on taking back Gaza and allowing settlement in Gaza? Right? So the person speaking, he's like, listen, I would love to, but build something over there, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. But at the same time, probably we're going to annex Judea and Samaria, right? And whatever else we need to annex, right? So, folks, but you never know. Listen, in the 6-Day War, I don't know, as far as I know, the government was not planning on, settling Judea and Samaria. Next thing you know, we have the old city of Jerusalem, and we have the entirety of Judea and Samaria, and we have Golan Heights, right? And all of a sudden, you have this thing called the Yeshuv movement. People started moving to Judea and Samaria in the 70s, even though, they lived there already, but even more and more and more. Next thing you know, guys, we come to 2025, almost 750,000 Jews, almost, live in Judea and Samaria. You're talking about, 10% of the country lives in Judea and Samaria. And there's so much more space to go, right? And only because we haven't annexed it. Guys, you know what I'm saying? So, Jewish history is progressing, guys. And I don't even think the government of Israel knows where Jewish history is headed, where the land of Israel is headed. And but one thing I do know, a certain demographic of people is realizing, what's going on, and they are not asleep, not as asleep as I thought. And Baruch Hashem, and I think that, for me, and I come from this community, Russian-speaking Jews, particularly in America, are the canary in the, what you would call diaspora coal mine. So if people start to see that, the people that fled from communism are now fleeing from America, not only fleeing, but they're making Aliyah and they're going to Israel during a crazy situation in Israel. Maybe it's something worth looking into. Maybe something's going on. Maybe it's a sign. So, but with that said, guys, my point is not to fearmonger. Obviously, it's, to be honest, I think that people should look to the future. It was Rabbi Leo D. I don't know if you guys know Rabbi Leo D. He recently got engaged, actually. Mazel tov to him. He lost his wife and I think his daughter in a terror attack. A couple of years ago. And he said, diaspora Jews look at the past. They're very good at looking at the past. Museums, this, that, Holocaust, this. He goes, Jews in Israel, we are, not that we disregard the past, but we are in a mindset of looking to the future. We're looking to build for the future. Yeah, we remember what happened, because you need the zachor, it's called, right? You can't forget. Otherwise you're going to be lost. You're not going to know how to deal with enemies. You're not going to know how to deal with, identify kind of a similar situation that you had before, and to learn from it, right? But with that said, you guys, the Jewish people in Israel are looking towards building. We're always building. That's with the theme of tonight, Building new communities, new generations, having more kids in the Western world, in the developed world, so-called. Israel has probably the most kids per family, right? So Baruch Hashem. And that's another reason why I think Europe is upset, because they're losing people, literally, and they're about to lose their continent to, some folks who have 5 or 6 or 7 kids in family, right? Our cousins, so to speak. So, thank God, guys, Jewish history is progressing, and I guess people in my you want to call it sub-community of Russian-speaking Jews are realizing, history is going somewhere, and it's going to a particular geographical place, and now they are looking seriously at that place. And even if it takes, like one of my rabbis says, even if you have to crawl, but just crawl and get to the finish line. So even if they're not going to move at this, speed of sound, move at the speed of snail, they're still moving. Baruch Hashem. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.